Mission fucking accomplished. Goon Swarm is not a threat.
Good luck with your old dumb nullsec war. Snuffed out #1. Anunnaki Keep Star is next, and then come on.
There, and then you were just going to fucking magically jump into EVE Online in a system, and it was just going to load, and nobody was going to call you fucking stupid later?
There's an Eagle fleet that has dive bombed a Megathron fleet. This is the bravest shit I have ever seen in my life.
The best possible shot to do something to the Imperium, and you fucked it up.
I talked a lot of shit over the last couple months. It's time to fucking eat some. And I showed up here to eat shit. Like
the reason that this keeps started and get contested, and I cannot make this up, is because of tie-dye.
Guess where goons are going to live after this war is over?
Current plan is 319, I believe, right?
So,
Hi, sick.
I can tell you very
overreacting.
clearly, our Diplos didn't even fucking care. Like,
White daddy.
Sorry. Welcome. Just having a drink of tea. Sorry. Just as we started. This is our next low-sec episode here. And with us today, we have a whole array of people who could be absolutely described as available tonight. And available tonight, we have with us Blazing Bunny. Blazing, you want to give us a quick overview?
Hello, I am Blazing Bunny, or the Rabbit of Fire, or whatever people call me. I am in the Mimitar Fleet Alliance. Live in Vard, currently getting victimized by Snuffed Out.
Interesting. Well, we also have some people with us who regard you as public enemy #1 and representing the Amar today. We have Mo Bloodlust. How are you doing today, Mo?
Hey, great. Thanks for having me, Phantomite. I'm Mo from the Amar faction representing Empyrean Edict Alliance.
Excellent. Corvus, thank you for joining us again. I believe this is going to be your second time joining us today. How are you today?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for inviting me back. I'm good, thank you. I'm Corvus Onzo, CEO and executor of Ghostbirds Alliance in Kaldai Factional Warfare, and also apparently the Harbinger of Death and Doom for some of the Galmill guys. So thank you.
Excellent. Well, unfortunately, we were unable to get a Galmill guy from the couple of people that we contacted this time round, so they'll be here next time to counter you. We'll have to leave you out to give them their say, obviously, next time as well. And we also have with us Young Puke 2, a previously Galente, now largely Pirate Faction Warfare player. How are you today?
Hello, thank you so much for having me again. Doing well.
Excellent. And for, perhaps 1% of people who may not be aware, Young Puke here is a current member of the CSM, working hard every day for low sec, and things seem to be going quite well so far. Are we coming up to only about is it 2 weeks or 1 week since we got the resists unnerfed?
I think it's 2 weeks, right? Isn't it 2 weeks now?
Excellent.
Was it May 27th?
Yeah,
Is that 2 weeks?
Excellent.
Right?
So,
Yeah.
now, of course, brawling is perfect again. Brawling is completely perfect in this game, and there's no problems with it anymore whatsoever. We have another person with us today. Again, joining us again, we have the Puce Moose. How are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. Glad to be here again. I am an unaligned low-sec pirate. So
Excellent.
used to be
The
Caldari.
absolute best
So,
way.
yeah.
Speaking of unaligned low-sec pirates, last of all, we have Nada Red with us. How are you?
Hello, I'm from Snuffed Out. We're a small alliance that lives in Blackrise, and we're currently on our summer holidays in Lanthorn.
Excellent. How many Lanthorn summer holidays have there been now? This must be the fourth one, something like that?
I think it's the third or fourth.
It's the
Excellent.
4.
How many snuffed out Lanthorn summer holidays have included a large dread brawl? At least half of them, right?
Yeah, like the last one was like in 2021. That was the really good one against, well, it was against like RC shitters, so like as good as you can get against them. But yeah, we dropped Titans there. We got a lot of dread fights. But sadly, a lot of the groups that really made that happen are like dead now, right? Like Siege Green isn't what it used to be.
No, no. I remember their I remember their keep star that was surrounded by some kind of buckyball of Astra houses as well to stop anybody else anchoring anything. That was
Yeah,
a
that's it.
depressing sight to behold. All right, well, listen, low-sec, of course, isn't just faction warfare, but faction warfare is what makes low-sec turn around. First of all, Corvus, if we go to the northern war zone, what kind of PvP are you generally finding day to day, week to week? What kind of sizes of fights are you getting up there?
So up in the northern North War Zone, it's actually gotten quite hot. Last week, the system of Ultranet was the second most violent system in all of LowSec in New Eden, second behind Abazon, I believe.
Okay,
So
yeah.
what has happened is after a couple of months hibernating in a perma frontline system, the local Galmill Alliance, which is Frog Pond, has resurfaced, started making pushes into Kadari systems, and this is sort of signaled a rise in Galmill forces across the war zone. So we've seen a push from Off Essence and alliances from the south of the war zone, so Hadley's. CTOC have lost Sudrento. They're now currently moving around in their area of space, attempting to push what they can. And at the moment, my alliance, Ghostbirds and UCSC are currently sandwiched between the Southern Gals that are coming up from Oinasycon and Pine, and Frog Pond, who are coming in from Valyria. So lots of good fights are happening. We've seen an uptick in battleship fights, battlecruiser fights, and also some very sneaky tactics on both sides. So it's been good fun, and definitely a lot more content than it was 4 months ago.
Perfect, perfect. I mean, everywhere has its lulls. You know, I mean that's why, for example, you know, our alliance up and left from there. You know, I assume that one day the Amamaki area will be dead, at which point all of the action will be there around you. But we'll see. We'll see. Speaking of the Amamaki area, if we turn to Blazing and to Mo, two sides of the coin down here, what do your faction warfare centric fights look like? I know I've addressed two of you at once, but feel free to both go on this one.
Mo, you can go first.
Yeah, sure. We're seeing a lot of fights of all sizes. There's still good small gang and solo in our war zone, the superior war zone. And we're seeing a lot of really strong small fleet fights happening with bigger ships and more people coming to the table. It's good.
Excellent. Just a couple of days ago, Blazing, I'm going to wonder if you were there for this one here. I went to go and watch one battlefield in the Southern War Zone, and I saw fire being exchanged no less than 3 different times with full fleets in the battlefield, largely in Prophecy Navy issues on both sides. But is this getting bigger than it has been recently?
I work odd hours, so I'm usually late US, so I probably wasn't there for that. But more often than not, for the battlefields that do get contested, we usually get a lot of the like the faction combat battlecruiser type brawls. With it being Navy, you're relegated to using T1 Logi, right? So sometimes we're starting to see a couple of like some Abaddons and T1 battleships start getting thrown into battlefields, but for the most part, due to the projection that faction battlecruisers have, right? They're like the pick of the trade right now. But I've seen some fights that are on the smaller scale, like the 10 to 20 range, and I've seen some where we've chucked 2 fleets of 100 into them, and it can be really nasty. It's really just a toss up in the time of day and where if the battlefield is somewhere conveniently located.
Okay. Well,
Or
I'll tell you
somewhere
what,
hotly contested.
Puke. Actually, I'm gonna come to Puke and Nada on this one here. This is about the last couple of weeks of higher resists in the game finally again. but also pairing those now higher resists with the quite strong, I mean, and contest that if you want, quite strong buffs to Logi ships, T2 Logi cruisers. Do you think that they are in a good place? Do you think that they still need more? Do you think that they are overpowered now?
I think they're in a lot better place, but I think a lot of the major issues with them is still present in that they're extremely acceptable to on bonus D war, like jams, camps, shit like that. And then you just have to worry about bushes with them. And they also require a lot of multi-boxing if you want to use them like Snuff did. So stuff like Fax is always pretty much going to be preferable for us where we can use those, but like they are in a much better position than they were before.
So obviously in Snuff, in a Snuff style engagement, I guess that we're talking about, Logi starting from 10 of them up to maybe several multiples of that kind of sized fleet, right?
Yeah, well, our rule is that if you have a subcap alt on grid, you must be able to field the Logi alt to go with that as well. So it should be like, if we have like 40 legions, we should have 30 or 40 guardians and arms.
Mm-hmm. Puke, the other day, your alliance and our alliance exchanged fire briefly on a gate in our fleets, and we had 3 logistics ships. And quite frankly, I was actually a little bit alarmed at us being able to tank what was on the field there at the time. I believe it was something like 12 Prophecy Navy issues. And in some cases, they were shooting into Tech 1 ships, and we were able to tank. I personally don't think I should have been able to do that. Any thoughts on that?
I think it's really hard to find the right balance. So I think for like, also in that engagement, right? Like I didn't have any webbing boats. I wasn't like webbing things and stuff. So we weren't like always applying most optimally. I could have brought jams too, and same thing. And there was also that other fleet on grid. I think it was like Jackdaws, if I remember correctly. But I do think like, I think they left. I think you're right. So I think it's better overall, but though like I think like a 20 to 30 person scale engagements, it really makes a really large difference now. Like you feel like the ability to tank, and so like in a way, which has been culture before, you have to get rid of some of the Logi, kill some of the Logi, fights then will last a little bit longer. But I'm keeping my ear to the ground. It's like if you're small ganging and a group that tries to fight you has 3 Ospreys, like are you going to be able to, if not 3 Ospreys, say 3 Simmies, are you going to be able to break anything, right? Like is there such a difference now? That's where
in some cases they were hard to track. They were hard to apply to before, but now, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, Zarms get now 300k HP high graded amuleted with Lynx. Like that's a battleship. That's a Typhoon. Like that's a lot of health. You have to really, and their sig is so small. I don't know. Like I think it's great for the bigger fights. Like now, if you get Boosh, obviously you'll still drop Fax. I mean, and I always think there has to be some form of counterplay, and I think Booshing wings are always a lot of fun. But at the same time, they're more durable. They're rocks that you really have to grind down. Even if you're fighting Navy battle cruisers versus Navy battle cruisers with Guardians and Zarms, it does take time, and I know Blazing can definitely attest to this for sure, that fights feel longer. It's not just kill Logi and win. You actually have to grind everything down, which is nice, I think.
No, that's fair enough. Something that occurs to me here is that for the last coming up to 3 years, it's been for some of us it's been at the back of our mind. For some of us it's been out loud from our mouths. Sometimes complaining about the limited Logi options inside, say, battlefields because of the Navy limitations. I look at today's T2 Logi cruisers, and I'm glad that they can't get into battlefields, especially given that battlefields are almost exclusively a ranged affair rather than a brawling affair where you can apply newts, you can apply webs, that kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, imagine if you were able to bring in Bassies, the enemies in fucking Prof Navies, and it's just nothing's going to die, right? Like,
No.
I think it's so important to build that culture, and there's something that we definitely all agree with is like the risk of loss. I think that's a great place to train FCs, that it's okay to lose. Like it's okay to take risks and try new things, and battlefields are like the best platform for that, or one of the best platforms.
Okay.
So our group flies almost exclusively small gang stuff. And what we've noticed since the patch is there's a higher emphasis on E-War that you bring to the fight, but also target selection as well. Stuff like rapidly switching targets and stuff to mess up logi calls and broadcasting is definitely become more of a thing. I think that's a good thing because, as Fant has put, or was it Young Puke has put, once the logi wing dies, usually the fight goes one-sided very quickly. Personally, I don't mind the new changes to the tank modules. I think it puts more ownership on the FC and the fleet composition in order to counter that, rather than, oh, their logi wing's dead, we win.
Yeah.
I mean, it used to be the case that you didn't even shoot logic because they just didn't fucking do anything.
Yeah.
Yep.
I do kind of feel it's reduced our ability in Watch This to punch up at larger but lower cost fleets with higher cost ships. So, for example, we were running Absolutions. I feel like it's necessary for us to bring E-War now, that we have to drop somebody out of a DPS ship and put them in E-War, because otherwise we're not going to break anything. We haven't really had a fight where we've been able to experience this yet, because it just hasn't naturally happened. But I am a bit concerned that we're not going to be able to take those punch-up fights as often anymore.
I mean, like the same way, like you can now punch up using more blingy logi ships versus other people.
Yeah. There's Dead Space reps exist. Dead Space hardeners exist, which are all spiked in price at the moment, but they are nonetheless.
They barely exist at the moment.
That's true, but
the hardeners barely exist at the moment because apparently the spawn rates of the 10 out of 10s you need for them, and coupled with Delve now being kind of just like an absolute barren wasteland.
Do you mean that the current inhabitants of Delve are not as good at turbo crabbing?
It's that coupled with the fact that whenever I'm not sure if this is 100% accurate, but from what I've heard is that now that you can get those new sites from running havens and shit, so like the dread ones, those are on the same like loot table as the 10 out of 10s. So if you want a 10 out of 10, you not have to compete with, like, if you get that roll where you get a bonus from that haven, it can be a 10 out of 10 or it can be any of the other shit. So you're not getting 10 out of 10 as much. And also, like, them not being worth running a lot of times, people say.
Okay.
Wait. Can you say that a little bit slower? So you're saying that you're able to run but the question then becomes either way, right? Is the same amount of 10 out of 10 sites producing the Dead Space modules?
Yes, that's fine, but we're not getting the same amount of 10 out of 10s.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean,
all right. The market's fucked.
Yeah, like that's something that we've chatted about too privately. Like, is the market, which I think is still too soon, like we have to wait 3 months to see if there should be changes at 10 out of 10s. Like, can the market meet the supply? Because at this rate, like I think I was buying thermal hardeners, X types, and they're now hitting 600 mil a pop. Like, that's a battleship for a mod. Like, for
it's a quarter of a nullsec fleet.
Yeah, basically, in one mod. But like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I think I have to. It's my job, right, to ask CCP, like, hey, like, are these sites really balanced now in the new? Do we want to wait a couple months, see, do we need to increase the spawns or not? That's like definitely a big concern, because a lot of people fit, for those that don't know, people fit these on their faction battleships or even Navy battleships, or they fit them on dreads, and so there's a lot of demand for these items because they make your ships last longer a lot now, and that they live on grid longer. You do more DPS, so there may be needed to be some necessary balancing there, but we'll see.
I mean, how? At what point does a sort of super high end? Let's say that Dead Space modules are an aspirational item. They are a diminishing returns module in terms of their price currently, very much so.
I mean, they're not. Well, the hardeners are weird, right? Because the higher you get with the hardener, the more value you get out of it, because how rep modifier or the rep multiplier works. So like,
yeah,
the jump from like, I don't know, like hypothetically, like a B type to an A type, that jump is smaller than an A type to an X type, just because of how resists work.
Okay. I mean, is it wrong that these things start to get super expensive? Would it not be better if it encouraged people to look into toning down the amount that they were spending on their ships, thereby giving the people with the money the edge there that they may have not been?
I mean,
perhaps best way to put this is quite in the past now. This is sort of going back a decade. But for example, people who flew shinier ships to get an edge often used to fly, for example, Navy battleships. And everybody in the larger but cheaper groups flew vanilla battleships. And then Navy battleships just became the norm. They just became achievable en masse to basically everybody. And with Macarials, I know that they used to be a lot cheaper as well. But, when they were at their peak in terms of their performance, even the very large fleets of people who were not putting the huge amount of effort in to make money, it just became the new norm to fly pirate battleships.
I mean, I don't think X-type partners are really the norm for anyone, like aside from like Snuff and Big Ab.
Okay.
Like I'm not sure Seta used them, because I remember looking at like all the other groups in their TFIs of like faction hardener and shit like that.
Okay. I suppose that's kind of, are you kind of saying it's working as intended rather than just everybody gets to be?
I mean, all right, like the way you want to. All right, here's another way of thinking about this, right? If you have these be really expensive, this is just a buff the Snuff. Because we'll use them, other people won't, and we get an advantage because of that.
Okay. All right.
That's
cool.
what I was gonna say about it. You're in Null, right? If the smaller group flies expensive pirate battleships with X-type partners and implants, the bigger group can just bring a metric shitload more. But in low, 9 times out of 10 with some like very case examples, there's not more people to bring to do that. So you're going to experience where between you have your medium-sized groups, like I dare say us and Set It, in that split, you're just going to chasm that split between like Big Ab and Snuff, where we're flying pretty much the exact same hulls. It's just now, on top of having some cases capital advantage, now they also have more expensive hardeners, more expensive implants. Like, and as the supply of X-type hardeners goes down, that chasm is only going to grow.
Yeah, I think
we can't ship to meet them because there's not much more up shipping to go past what we're already doing.
Another way to think about this is we have a lot of those hardeners. Like they're rare now, right? They're hard to actually fucking get. If Mill want to put them on their like Mac, if they want to have a Mac doctrine and put the X-types on, good fucking work.
I mean, just to be perfectly frank now, I think you've seen my post in the Abyssal Discord. Like I'm pleading to gentlemen and ladies that have, you want to sell at X-type hardeners, I'll buy them, G to buy, self promo a little bit, hashtag. And like there's nobody that's selling, right? Like there's just there's no market. Like, and so like you have buy orders in Jita and Amar or whatever. And like, yes, I agree with you, Senior Gideon, they should be expensive, but like we have to make sure like how does it on larger scale balancing, like how does it work out between like the upper end size low sec groups, because that's where it hits the most, because like null groups, I'm projecting a little bit, but they're not tending to put super expensive fits on their vultures, right? Like a vulture's like 550 mil, and that one module costs one vulture, to put it in perspective, fully fit. And so it's a bigger discussion that needs to be had, and I mean, again, we have to see what CCP thinks about it. So sorry, Abe, I do like to accentuate, I don't know the word, but a little bit, over exaggerate a little bit. But yeah, pleading, sell me your X-type partners, please.
Okay. I have another faction warfare topic that is, it's been hot for a while, but there seems to be a huge spike for the last couple of weeks of people talking about it on Discord and on r/Eve. it's endlessly back up again. It is the AWOXing in faction warfare. Now, are people still? There haven't been any changes. I know there's no changes. Are you guys still experiencing and hearing from your guys the same kind of levels that people have been seeing and complaining about?
It was certainly one of the first things that came up when I started a new thread in our Discord asking about topics to bring to the show.
Yeah. Well, so if people in your group are want you to talk about it, how are they phrasing their complaints? What are they saying?
There are known particular groups that give us problems with AWOXing and taking advantage of the very limited punishment there today.
$10 says it's the same group in our war zone, to be honest.
Name and shame.
What do you mean the same group?
Name and shame.
Perhaps it would be more relevant to point out that the by far overwhelmingly largest offenders are people who are here for the money rather than the content and the money. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and so when you look at it too more closely, like the rate of AWOXing is more prevalent in the pirate factions than in the what's it called? The Empire factions. Like those are the two factions, so Angel Cartel and Guristas. They have the most frequent AWOXing, and it's like 30 times over. And so also recently, I don't know if you guys saw, I know I tried to spread it around a little bit. CCP Okami and CCP K1P1 recently put out messages about the AWOXing problem. That they are, I don't know if you can pull it up. I don't know if Headliner is here, but they commented on it, and they're like reaching out to the community, trying to figure out, okay, how is this sort of unfolding? Not Headliner. That's not, I pulled it up. Redline.
I know.
Sorry.
Did you see me grinning?
Oh my god,
Yeah,
I did. I saw you grin. I was like, fuck. Whoops, sorry, buddy. But they.
It's funnier to just let it happen. Carry
yeah,
on,
I know. So whatever. But they both have commented on it. And like there are, and they have said that there are changes that are coming to the June 24th patch update for Legion that are directly targeted for faction warfare and insurgency players. So I think we just have
Did he say? I know. Obviously, you can only tell us what he said in public about this. Did he specify what areas of faction warfare they're looking to touch upon in this upcoming update?
Yeah, both Empire faction warfare and insurgencies.
Yeah, but
So
just
both.
as vague as that, though.
Oh, I can pull up his statement here. Let's see.
If you go ahead and grab that for a sec, obviously, a very popular, wide reaching opinion of the EVE public, something that a lot of people agree on, is that given that it is almost entirely career farmers who are doing this, rather than people who are here for PvP. A lot of people feeling that the penalties should be ISK or LP related. Is that something that you have presented as an option,
yes.
a suggestion to CCP?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Well, this is what happens when you get the right guy on the CSM, guys. Somebody who gives the actual public opinion of things.
I have a question about the AWOXing. Right? What's to stop FRT or whoever it is just killing you with neutral ults anyway?
Nothing. They do that.
They do that.
They do that as well.
Anyway.
But that's
I feel like this is one of those things where like there's a mechanical issue, but it's not going to actually fix the issue because FRT really like playing the game, which is why they're able to do a lot of this stuff the way they do.
One of the solutions for using neutrals to kill people is to make it so neutrals contest sites when they enter them. At the moment, it's only if a enemy faction player is in the capture zone, right, that it contests the site. If you also had neutrals, then they wouldn't be able to do it as easily. I suppose they could just kill you and leave, but
It would be easy if it was neutrals. Their previous MO has been to have both pirate faction and empire faction enlisted characters. So a good example is what we saw about 3 or 4 months ago, which would be Fraternity Garista enlisted players in DPS, and then Caldari Militia enlisted Fraternity in logistics vessels. Which basically meant we couldn't kill them without taking like a significant standings hit.
It's not just. Sorry.
Ironically, this insurgency that's currently going on now in Enaluri, where we've kind of left them to their own devices, they've actually started killing their own Garista players as well, which has grinded their insurgency progress to a halt, which is quite amusing.
I suppose that something that's missing is that there are already standings penalties. What's missing is those penalties are obviously not applying when one side assists another side, as in remote rep, remote SIBO, something like that. That seems like that's probably some kind of low-hanging fruit mechanically, is to make people lose standings merely for doing a remote positive action on an enemy militia.
So one thing that they're also doing, which I don't know if I want to say this because if it spreads further, but like what Corvus was saying with the Logi, they're doing it in high sec. So like you will have a person that, let's say you are Galente, you have then and the person that you're killing is Caldari, of a Caldari Logi alt. Like because they're war deck, they can aggress each other in high sec, and like they can rep each other, but you can't kill them. But they're both enlisted. I don't know if this is making sense.
I
but
thought
like
they
then
had fixed part of it. So when they introduced direct enlistment, we had a problem when we were still in Caldari Militia. That I think it was Riot was gate camping Litiera or something.
Yeah.
Vegeta were able to use neutral Logi to rep themselves, and that got fixed. Is this just another extension of that?
It's another extension because now technically when you're both enlisted and you're able to cheese the rats in high sec, you can then get perma reppers. So like they do, I'm not gonna say how you do it, but like you're able to basically get a perma Logi tank that is in the same militia as the same group, and then you're able to, you can't kill that Logi because then you'll get concorded or whatever, and then they just loot it. Like there's like fundamental, I don't call it design issues. I think that's the only word that comes to mind. Like there's like these little gimmicks, and they're not little, but like there are these fundamental problems of like how it's implemented that it just doesn't make sense. Like
it's spaghetti.
It's spaghetti.
It is.
Yeah.
It is spaghetti, and it's all come out of that has all come out of direct enlistment, which I don't really know if direct enlistment is a great idea. Sure, it might get more people into faction warfare, but do you want solo people in faction warfare? Do you want it when it enables all of these weird interactions where you have people in the same corp in different faction wars? Are they actually going to shoot each other? It seems to be counter to what faction warfare is supposed to be, which is kind of like that red versus blue fighting thing. Yeah.
Well, we knew direct enlistment was going to be a double-edged sword when it was announced, and many people in faction warfare groups, first of all, had the same concerns that you did, Pius, but also to do with the benefits of joining faction warfare. Why would you join a faction warfare corp or alliance when there is literally no extra rewards for doing so, and when you could just direct enlist?
And I think
these are all issues that were covered.
Yeah, and I think that highlights even a more fundamental problem, which is there is no long-term benefit from being a fully enlisted alliance in faction warfare, and there's no medium to long-term goals anymore. You can say like evicting or taking the map was the long-term goal. Nobody gives a fuck about the map, right? I just think if you say that you care about the map, the color green, then you just like turtles or something. I don't know.
Green
but
if you're
like,
Galente, but okay.
Green if you're Galente, right? Yeah, but you know what I mean, right? Like, or blue if you're Caldari, or whatever, right? And like, there is no.
You forgot the other two colors. Go on.
Yeah, whatever. They don't exist. Sorry, Mimitar and Amar. Just joking. But like that is a problem. It's like there is no long-term goals. Like if you're Unity, you've been in Fact War for 15 years. What do you get out of it? Right? Like if you're
only limitations.
Yeah, only limitations. And so like there has to be a reason, and people like Shiva, who's in Phantomites Corp has brought up a lot of beautiful ideas about this. Like, what are these longer term goals that we can sort of have to give people a bigger purpose to do in fact war, other than flipping Amamake the 100th time back and forth, or flipping Villarear the 100th time back and forth, and repeating the same gameplay loops.
Look,
There has
we
to
all
be
know
a
it's
bigger
about
picture.
posting on Reddit.
Or
You gotta
posting
get
on
the system
Reddit,
so you
right?
can post on Reddit.
Setting up parades that you took a system only to lose that system an hour before the parade starts.
Exactly. Right.
Whoever has the most, whichever side has the most systems in a war zone, should have a penalty to the number of upvotes they can receive.
Perfect.
Or votes on CSM.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's Young Puke's correct. You know, there isn't really a reward system for those people who have been playing faction warfare for a very, very long time, and that kind of became semi-apparent when they've stopped issuing medals out for Warzone control, be it a tacit reward. It was a reward, and then the final death now was introduction of perma front lines, where alliances could literally back away and essentially stop doing factional warfare and live in a system near permanently without any risk to themselves or any ability for the opposition to kick them out of the war zone, which was always a staple thing in faction warfare 10 years ago. You know, if you took the war zone, you removed the opposite faction from that war zone.
I've always thought that, you know, that's a kind of that starts to get very complex, that topic, because obviously if somebody, you know, if side A has 100% control of the war zone, and let's imagine that there's no such thing as a perma front line in this case, and side B would like to set up a beachhead of some kind to make their pushback. I mean, in this kind of world of without perma front lines, in most cases they would have to base from high sec.
Yes.
But that, of course, just straight up excludes very large number of faction warfare PvP players who aren't able to live in high sec. I mean, they can't dock there, for one, with the current mechanics. Let's even imagine that they could dock there.
As I found
they
out to
can't
my
really live there.
great displeasure the other day when I accidentally jump cloned into a high sec system and decided to undock a Megathrone.
Yeah.
Can I get back in?
Oh no.
I mean,
But I think
you're
that
correct,
also-
Fan. But the thing is when you are moved out of the war zone, as it was previously, you know, you wouldn't normally go back to the same systems you've just lost. It would offer an option to reinvent and refresh yourself, possibly moving to a different area of the war zone. And not all endpoints of low sec go into high sec. There are non-faction warfare low sec systems.
Yeah, there's Wyvangia next to Haderleys, for example.
Your favorite system, of course.
My
But,
favorite
you know,
system,
if you
the
go,
weirdest system.
You know, even if you go up towards sort of Kanako area, like when back in the day when obviously I was around multiple years ago, I dare say, Puke was as well, when Galante took the entire war zone, you know, and we were an alliance that was forced to move out of the war zone. We had to go and stage out of war zone for about 6 or 7 months. And it's from a perspective of having to force people to live in high sec. Yes, it doesn't do anything for the content generation of the people in Warzone at that time, because obviously that your enemy is in high sec, right? But then again, neither does perma front lines if people are refusing to undock and are in effect hibernating in those systems.
Yeah, I think the perma frontline experiment has gone for so long now. If we have so much data now for 3-4 years, there just has to be a minimization of it. Like, sure, there should be like 1 or 2 perma front lines, but the ability of having alliances, like what honestly, when Corvus and I were fighting each other in Villarear, what was so much fun was that we did have that threat of eviction living in Villarear. We did have to defend our space, because if we didn't, we would lose and we would get kicked out, right? And so, like, sure, maybe having Aubinal and Old Man Star, I mean, I'm not saying the 2 systems that we lived in, but as an example, right, those could be perma front lines, but then the map has more meaning, right? Like, there is a reason to push for things and defend your space. But then, like, where are those like longer term goals? And so the CCP really has to implement a lot more. And I think this is like what we're all touching upon, is like it needs a third expansion. Like, faction warfare like needs a third one to tie everything up, and the amount of work that it takes, like we are getting stuff through every expansion, every major update now, we're getting iteration, but like it's not enough, right? Like there's these core fundamental issues that need to get addressed. And I don't want to wait 10 years to get it fixed, right? Like, I mean, I can't say anything, but like but like it's important that we like that's the level of work that needs to be done. And saying it's less, I think, does more harm than good.
So obviously, and we talked about this on a previous show recently, and if we're talking wider Eve than faction warfare, wider than even just low sec, we are in the opening weeks of an expansion whose main feature is, I think we can say, dead on arrival,
useless.
You put pointless, incomplete on launch, and seemingly without much vision. Nonetheless, what the expansion did come with was a set of ship balance changes, some wide-reaching and some on specific hulls, like Logi, and some changes to cruisers, to some cruisers. Those changes, which are CCP kind of presented as a footnote, have excited the existing players of EVE Online far more than the actual big fanfare, big feature. In the past, we had the Crucible expansion, which was an entire expansion of EVE that exclusively focused on fixes and rebalances to existing content and ships in the game. How likely do you think it would be to kick something off, Puke? We are obviously approaching the final quarter of your CSM term, of your current CSM term. How likely do you think it would be to be able to convince CCP that in the near future they should be brave enough to do Crucible 2 that just looks at patching up existing content rather than introducing new mechanics?
I think it's a great idea, and I think they have started along that path. So like the March 12th update really focused on a lot of whether it's quality of life stuff, and also like the little things that like what are things that need to be fixed. Like they're now doing it more frequently, I would say, and that every major update, like that's I think is like the goal is like what are a bunch of things that is maybe it's not a Crucible expansion, but it's happening at least 2 to 3 times a year that they're following up with things that need to be done. I think Okami, not to paint him as the messiah as we have done on Reddit, but that's a lot of pressure, but has done a really good job communicating that. Like on his posts or whatever is better than what happened before. Maybe some people disagree, but could they do more? Yes. There's always room for more. But is this an improvement? I would say so. And I think June 24th. Yeah.
But will it continue? Because, I mean, yeah, the March 12th update, sure, and there's been small adjustments to mining since then. But then we got this patch, which just kind of has, I mean, it's got Surgical Strike Revert, but that's like a revert. It's not.
So
we've been asking for that for like a decade, right?
I'll take it, Goose.
But Goose, just to challenge that just a little bit. Let's say they didn't revert that. Like, where do they start, right? Like, how do we get them onto this path? And I think that's how we do it. Is that we encourage them and say, yes, Surgical Strike Revision, finally, we got it through. Here are some other things that we want. And we do that as positive motivation through feedback to get more and more stuff through. Think about the faction warfare stuff, how we've accomplished it for the past year. Like, we're getting things, little things. I mean, I wouldn't say the killing of the Algeese was a little thing. I think that was a major thing. Reworking the Plex numbers was a long-term ask. And now there's no more Algeese farmers as much. There's still some. But like that's how you...
Harbingers now, by the way.
Yeah.
Well,
arbitrator swarms.
Arbitrator swarms, I guess. But like I think that's how we approach it. It's like this was great. What is the next step? And then it's just a continuous process over and over. I know people have offered feedback against UI, feedback a bunch of various other things, but I'm glad we got the Surgical Strike revert. And I asked Jester Trek for some data so far preliminarily wise. I can post it in the live chat. I think I can share this. It's on his website. So that is the trend line post Legion. So if you look, he's estimated 4,000 daily players are coming back post Legion. This is not including the. Maybe I can share it in the group. I can't share it.
That are coming back?
Humans. Yep, individual humans coming back. And that is
4,000 a
post.
day.
Yeah.
Now, is that that data essentially from the free Omega time?
No. So the data, I asked him that exact question. It is after.
Yeah, I'll say I've been really impressed with CCP, and this is some credit to Puke as well for circling back to touch up on what they brought to us with Uprising in each patch. Of course, there's always more that we could ask for, but they have not forgotten it or, set it to the wayside since Uprising, and that's good to see.
I'd like to point out, if that trend line is correct, we can probably mostly assume that that is because of surgical strike reverts, etc., instead of freelance jobs.
There
so
has
that
been...
surely supports the fact that a Crucible 2 expansion would be popular and bring people back into the game.
And
Legion has been huge. The hype is palpable all around.
Mm-hmm. But it's not because of it's not because of freelancing.
No. But I think
No, it's not.
I think Nada can talk to this too. I bet too. And since Legion hit, we're set it as a group of 200 heartbeats. In the past, since Legion, I've had 10 people resub from the game that I haven't seen in years. They heard about Surgical Strike getting completely screwed over. It's not there anymore, except for like the things that we liked. And they're like, I'm gonna resub again. And they got long-term subs. And like with the 1 week Omega, they got a couple good fights in, and then they bought a 1-year subscription to EVE Online. And like that's when good shit happens, people come back. And like that's how we phrase it to CCP, I think. It's like, look, when you're doing good things, look at there's a war that's ongoing, there's a low sec conflict that is brewing, there's good things that are happening. Sure, there's issues that we're experiencing, but let's move the needle forward. And by doing that, the game grows. Like that's sort of the way I've been framing it, the conversation, is that we're making good steps forward, but we need more. And we can, I'm not going to say the word rejuvenate, because that's a bad word these days. But we just need more growth, like more focus on like what the players really are asking for. And you'll see more people come back and more people stay.
Yeah, we're in a lot better spirits now that the reverted to Surgical Strike. Because like shows that actually welcome back some of their like awful decisions. There's still some stuff they need to do, like the fact or the diminishing returns of reps needs to go. It's like really fucking dumb, and it's still part of the reason supers and tines don't be used that much.
It needs to go, or it should just be the limit should just be raised way higher.
Right, okay, so it either needs to go, or you need to have a limit on how much damage you can do to ships as well. Because I don't think it's fair that if we bring 15 faxes, we're punished for that versus like a dread bomb. But if someone brings 400 dreads, you get the full value of every one of those.
I suppose, and I can see where you're going with this, but that it is worth considering at the same time that things do need to die as well.
I mean, they do, right? But the reason the reason that patch that was even done was because Pro God Legends a fucking moron and can't organize a dread bomb. Like it's dread bomb, like as it stands, right? Dread bombs, like how it works is when we were planning the dread bomb in it, or the one within it against FRT, we literally said we're going to write off the damage of 30 dreads, or like 30 dreads, something like that. And that's all the faxes are going to do, right? So we have like 230 dreads. We have 200 dreads worth of damage, and we're fine with that. There's no counter to that other than just killing dreads quicker. Why would you put supers and tines on the field, right? And they're just going to die. It's the same reason fucking Border scrambling to get their supers and titans safe on that keep star fight the other day, right? Because if 400 dreads jump in, what the fuck are your little faxes going to do, right? 15 of them matter, the rest don't, and all those dreads matter.
Mm-hmm. Of course, at the same time, if we scale this down to subcaps, we don't want in super large fights, even in low sec, we don't want battleships to be unkillable at the same time, which is why obviously a major go-to is alpha comps, right?
Yeah, but like they're all gonna be a thing. But like, also, sorry, that person who's yapping in the Twitch chat, like K Daddy, I presume isn't works from the way he's speaking. Like, the person who organized the defense against that thread bomb is in my corp and makes this exact same argument. Like, the rep thing is just fucking stupid. It was an incompetent thread bomb and should have been punished as it rightly was. I don't see why we have this asymmetry between fucking faxes and or damage and logic. One gets punished when the other doesn't, especially when it's counterproductive to like anti-blobbing, right?
I just think
sure. I mean, you do see my point about that things do have to die.
Yeah, things died before, and they died before the nerf as well, right? You just need to be competent with what you're doing.
It's just part of this argument there was that people won't jump their Titans in unless they can tank.
Yeah, but they don't, so they don't get to jump in, right? Whereas now people would, or when you can tank, people are more likely to jump them in, and then you're vulnerable to just having your faxes killed and then your Titans died if faxes mean they died. Because like keep in mind, faxes will still just be nerfed relentlessly. They don't have like triple cap booster anymore, so they can run free armor reps and a shield rep.
Okay. Of course, because that doesn't stack. That doesn't have a penalty.
Yeah. No, like you can run
I
it.
never
But you
considered
used,
that.
you used to be able to run that because you had the cap boosters that did. Now you've only one cap booster.
So one thing about faxes and everything, which I don't know how I'm going to tie this in, but Mo suggests this too, is the economy of faction warfare, which is overly underlooked, like LP prices, cost of things. I'm wondering tags. I'm wondering Blazing, Mo. I know Angel Cartel LP since the expansion has just exploded. It's like 1.5k is for LP. We just can't produce enough. I'm wondering how your experience is. Like, how is the demand for LP post Legion, post Fac War for your groups? Sorry, Nada, but I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. No, go on. Yeah, so, would I be right in saying that a vast amount of faction war LP value is because of Navy dreads?
If you're in a Mar,
Agreed.
maybe.
Yes.
If you're in a Mar, yeah.
Although,
okay, yeah.
No one's buying our shit. Navy Dread, I can say that right the fuck now.
although I will say with the recent war, I'll put that in air quotes for the benefit of the person in chat who's saying war, in nullsec, there has been a bit of a spike in demand for Raven Navy issues, from a Caldari side of things. Mainly because I'm guessing, and this is purely assumption, I've never flown in any of the big blocks, I've never flown in nullsec to any sort of real significance. I would guess that it is a almost cheaper alternative to something like a Barghest if you wanted to put a load of people into a battleship comp that actually tanks. So yeah, Raven navies have definitely spiked.
Not Ferox navies though.
No, not Ferox navies because they're trash. But
What? Ferox Navy is like the most used ship in the game, probably in null second.
But Nada, what have they been flying? What's their go-to in the largest fleets in the current war?
I mean, in the war, you're seeing a lot of Ferox navies. You're seeing a lot of Raven navies. You're seeing what's forward flying Rooks. But yeah, like those Caldari ships are like the main ones at the moment. Ravens, Ferox. It's like Ferox is super common. Some people use vultures, but Ferox I think is.
You see Feroxes, T2 Feroxes, and big Feroxes in the Rooks.
Yes. And not to go on an anti-Caldari rant, but like there's definitely, I feel like, a bunch of pressure these days on like Caldari. Like, oh no, it's good. It just shows you how diverse the LP is, right? Like, depending on what the meta is, right? Like Caldari LP just skyrocketed. Maybe more people will join Caldari that way. And like that, it's just very interesting. Like, or how it is so
like
hard.
Minmatar fleet being unable to move dreads because
unable to move dreads. Nobody wants them, right? Like, and these are sort of the choices. Like, what I know, Min Mill historically. I mean, Galente has the ENI, which sells a lot, but like Mo and I were chatting previously, and he's like, it's impossible to keep up with demand these days. Like,
it is.
Like, it's very very hard. Like, go on, Mo.
Since
Sorry.
they removed the 5s, there's just less LP being generated.
Does that not just push the price of the LP up, compensating to some extent?
Yeah.
I think overall, what we're seeing, like one thing I look at is our alliance taxes and LP or corp taxes. we're generating less and bringing less in, and it's selling for more, but it still ends up being less total value.
Because buyers only want to pay a certain amount; they can't be pushed infinitely.
I think it's also the quantity
we'll see.
as well. The not like we've had. I mean, I've had people from certain nullsec groups that will remain nameless come up and casually ask me for 100 Phoenix Navy blueprints. Like, probably not.
Can get you
give
3,
you
mate.
some. I give you 3.
Maybe. Put you on a plan.
Let me jump into Plexus real quick, and I'll get back to you.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. Like, there's like so much, and I think like that's not really talked about. Is like, and there's not a lot of good MER data either on LP. Like and like really understanding like how is LP pressure. It is the second biggest like is sync in the game is loyalty points now. Like it is like it's huge. It's like 17 trillion ISK a month or something, and it's just like we're not really talking about it as much. Like how like meeting these demands, like should there be more flexibility of like should certain items drop more LP occasionally, like should battlefields I'm probably gonna get some eye rolls, should battlefields have more LP payouts to encourage more conflict
dynamic to some extent,
or dynamic, right? Like how I feel like everything is so binary in this because it's easier to sort of do things and to build a system that's just binary versus a dynamic system of fact war that like I feel like we're just not able to meet demand and prices are going to keep going up and up and up, and then people are going to plex more, which is fine. But then it's just like it comes to a point where there's just not enough plexes. And we want less plexes too. So like that's a big ask that people have been chatting. It's like, let's have less plexes. But then if there's less plexes and there's not enough LP that's generated, we're going to have more shortages. So I don't know what your guys' thoughts
and that's
on that
right
is.
in line with talking about the economy of faction warfare. The Navy ships blueprints created a huge export where, you can come here and LOSEC's known for killing a lot of shit and getting a lot of shit blown up. So you have to be able to pay for that somehow. And faction warfare has a good revenue system. And the fact that all of New Eden wants these blueprints, creates an export market that's really good.
I think LP is more of a background thing, like recent discovery, like even when it goes to sort of as far as UI. Recently, I know playing the game for just over 10 years, recently made the discovery that there isn't actually a transaction history for LP donations.
That's correct.
In the UI. Why? Particularly if you're dumping LP or selling LP or and we've had it got to a point where the realization was we actively had players donating LP to Corp, and then a couple of weeks later we were getting grumbles in comms like, okay, what's going on, dude? It was like, well, I donated LP to the Corp, but nobody said thank you to me. It was like, well, we didn't know because
I think
we
with the introduction of LP tax, it sort of necessitated a journal for the LP transactions.
Exactly.
And Rotati has said publicly they know it's due. They know.
I saw that. Yeah.
They know, and you saw the guilt on his face. He's like, we wrote it in a message 2 years ago, and we're like, everybody rightfully so was, where is it? Like, this is such a huge thing. There's such a demand, and if you're Corvus, right, and you get like, I need someone else to buy me 100 PNIs. How do I track people? Like, I have to use a Google spreadsheet to track transactions of who sent what. Basically, like it's insane. It just puts more work onto the player for no reason.
And it makes me think of the potential that corporation projects have to be such useful tools that they're just shy of being able to do today with the way they're coded.
We have somebody else who has joined us. We have another low secker. Baltram, thank you for raiding the stream here. Baltram, as somebody who has very recently returned to the game and essentially missed the last 3 years of the evolution of new faction warfare, you're back here. You've got a few of your friends with you. What opportunities do you think that you can see in front of you with what's going on in faction warfare and just general LOSEC now? What are you looking forward to?
Opportunity. Hello, by the way, I'm Baltram. Thank you, everybody. I just tuned in. I don't know if you can see my camera.
We can't at the moment, no, but
unlucky. I don't know about opportunities. I think overall it seems like, from what I've done at least, is the PvP is like very densed up, so I think it's like very easy to get like small situational fights. I haven't partaken in any of the big stuff or looked at it even. I haven't cared. I've just been soloing mostly and flying with like 3, 4, 5, 6 boys max, but 99% of the time just solo. The main opportunity is for me currently small plexes, because that's where the meta is, but I also hate it because it's all balanced around navies. I actually already complained about 2CCP about that. I messaged all their devs on Discord. I said the plex design is bad game design actually. So that's like the main thing I have to say, I guess.
Okay. I mean, for some extra context, Baltram, we won't go through it all again, but we were talking about the strength of T2 logistics cruisers, and we were expressing, I mean, pretty universally our gratitude for the Navy meta holding back some of the types of ships that you get in certain situations, namely in battlefields. Otherwise, nothing in this game nothing in faction warfare would be dying anywhere. It would just be everybody just tanking at great range. I will say, I'll tell you what. Let's ask everybody here. I mean, that includes you, Nada, as well. I know that you're not directly in faction warfare, but you PvP in this zone. I certainly feel that the limitations creating a navy meta has been very good for faction warfare in terms of keeping the costs of barrier of entry to PvP down and just giving us a different meta to the rest of space. Anybody want to chime in? Anybody got an opposing view on that? Anybody kind of agree with Baltram that they want more advanced?
I think maybe there should be a few more advanced plexes, but I do agree that the amount of navies in the navy meta is quite good. I am space poor. I run a corporation that isn't particularly rich either, and I remember pre-uprising days of just being in a plex and having like a bunch of Garmas just come in, and then you have to leave. You can't do anything about it because we can't catch any of them, or somebody in a succubus just waiting outside a plex to grab you. People just blinging the shit out of things. When Kikimoras could get into navy plexes was awful. I do like the separation more now.
I wouldn't mind seeing more advanced in the small range, but I think the first issue you run into if you start doing a lot more advanced than navies on mediums and above, so mediums, largest, and battlefields, is what we were talking about before with Logi cruisers being oppressive, right? Because the second you have a lot more medium advances, then that opens the door wide open to get like sacrileges and guardians back into plexes, and where they're pretty much hard to contest, right? I remember I was in Waffles years and years ago, and this group called Balex used to run around in a comp of only sacrileges and guardians that were at the time slaved, now amuleted, and fighting them was a big old pain in the ass. And that's kind of what you like run the risk of doing the minute you push the. Basically, I feel like this all hinges on whether or not you can get a guardian into somewhere, right? Battlefields get a lot harder to contest if there's guardians there now. There's easy ways to, well, not easy, but there's ways to combat your T2 Frigg Logi, but I feel like the scaling between a T2 Frigg Logi and a T2 Cruiser Logi is gigantic.
And one thing that we haven't touched upon is that ice heists, you're allowed to bring T2 Logi in. And we already see that how
all
it is
pirate
in the
content typically.
Yeah, and so like all the pirate content, you get a lot of it, but like what's the meta in the pirate content right now? It is Ferox Navies, Vultures, at least in our war zone. Ferox Navies, Vultures / Raven Navies with Bassies, and they just shoot each other at range. Like that's it. Like
This is one of the problems I have with the ice heists and the battlefields, where the war pins are separate for the factions, is that you either get the fact that whoever is set up in there is just set up at range and can just shoot you and then fuck off, or you get the fact that the people that are in there are in like an arbitrator swarm and can just leave the instant that you show up. We don't really go into ice heists in Watch This anymore because the chance of getting a fight in there is quite low for us, and it's just a ball ache to go in, try and boosh onto the enemy, and then have to boosh yourself out because the rats point. Yeah, I don't like that setup.
I do like the current setup of Navy over Advanced. I think as somebody who does a lot of theory crafting and a bit of FCing, I think it presents a challenge because obviously in a world where we have a lot of advanced battlefields in particular, it's very easy to just go for, oh, we'll just go to the T2 Logi straight away. Having to squeeze as much ability out of Navy and T1 ships presents a pretty good challenge, and you do get a good variety of comps that come through as well. As I said, there's a lot more, especially with the surgical strike reversal. There is definitely a lot more of a scope for E-War being a big part of fleets now as well. You'll see a lot of, I mean, Fant will be, sorry, not Fant, Young Puke will be very familiar of back in the days when he used to fight me, of you know, prophecy navies with a lot of E-War in the mids and a lot of armor tank, presenting quite a challenge to us in Drake navies where we don't really have the mid slot space to put E-War in. And I do think there is at the moment in the current faction warfare, there is definitely a lot of opportunity for advanced ships to be used, even if it's not insurgency stuff. We're now regularly putting stuff like golems and stuff on grid for propaganda towers because it just attracts a shit ton of content. And
mental note,
do it. I mean, it's we already we undock them and put them there knowing that they're most probably going to die. And the last time we did, you know, Kool-Aid decided to drop 2 Morris navies on top of us, which was hella good content, and then Snuffed Out decided to come and, you know, play their part. And you know, we lost both golems, but we also, you know, saw 2 Morris navies on grid that then died. And that was supported, but they were supported by quite a big fleet of ENIs that turned up on grid as well. You know, I was floating about in a Bargus, which is not a usual ship that I fly in faction warfare. It's not really a ship you see in faction warfare unless you're uber rich and uber large alliances are around. So yeah, I do think there is a scope in at the present time for advanced stuff. It's just you have to work at it a bit more than just warping to a plex and waiting for people to come in.
Something that I've always had in mind around the idea of making room for more advanced stuff in the faction warfare space is, you know, some people say make an advanced battlefield, and I think that maybe there's the opportunity to have, in addition to the regular battlefield, a rarer advanced battlefield, but perhaps specifically a medium battlefield, so that you cannot bring things bigger than T2 cruisers into it. And you know, because what that would really do is it would test the waters for advanced fleet work, rather than just go the whole hog and be like, here's a large advanced, enjoy getting all your pirate battleships in. It's I think it'd be a good stepping stone.
I agree. I think the best fights do happen. In fact, we're in the medium-sized plexes. We can bring in a Guardian Wing or whatever. You can do like hacks. You know, I remember Ranga always brings up that old fight, Phantomites, was it Sax versus Onyxes or something? You know, like stuff like that. Yeah, like that's just cool. It's fun, and like you actually get some hack content. And that's a great way to implement.
In a medium, you can't get a command ship in there. So you know, if you want links, you got to bring a command destroyer, which has its own significant drawbacks in its hit points and things like that. You know.
Yeah, and even looking at the larger scale, like looking at all the fact groups that are using capitals now, like, I mean, whether it's Ribbit, whether it's Edict, whether it's Fleet, Set It, whether it's all these fact war groups, they're using caps, they're undocking Hodreds, they're testing the waters a little bit, pushing the limits, and I think that should be very commended. And just to see how many people are like willing to just undock a Hodred or a carrier or something and just have a little bit of fun. And it's good that these ecosystems are promoting that behavior too. And it's nice to see how, you know, Corvus can be super happy with all the theory crafting, the deep navy stuff, but then on the other side of the scale, you have people that are happy dropping capitals, but still they're able to kill them. And it's really good to see that overall, because that just shows like what is the healthy side of fact war that is actually thriving. Because in Null right now, it's fuck all capitals are being used. And maybe they Goons dropped a Zern bomb recently, which was awesome. But at the same time, like in the past year, it's like 60% of dreads that have been killed have been low sec. And it's just like, let's continue to promote that. Let's continue to promote that culture of willing to undock and risk it. So even if it's more of the larger groups.
We haven't dropped Horde Red or Carrier yet.
There's always room for growth, my friend.
Those riveters watching Twitch right now, yet.
Because you sold all those PNI blueprints to nullsec. You don't have a
Yeah. Say, Puke had, Puke
we
had to
have
casually mention
we have a
Horde Dread.
supply. Don't worry.
Puke just had to casually mention mention Hodred use just because he has the Hodred aficionado in his alliance.
Hey, I mean, that's the thing. Like, it doesn't have to be us, right? Like, it could be anybody, and there's plenty of other people that are doing it as well, right? Like, I think it's cool to see that because I have not seen that in a very, very long time. And like, it's one thing I like to highlight to CCP is like, low sec is the area of high risk, high reward. We want to fight. We live close to each other because we want conflict, not because we want to avoid it. And I think as long as that is their ethos, hopefully can get better and better as it goes on.
I think a decent change they could make is that you need to use capitals to kill iHubs. I think
a decent change they could make would be paying us to bash iHubs.
They made
I thought they have allegedly
that was
fixed
in the
that
last
now.
update.
40k LP, dude. It's
I think they should, like,
a third
I
of
think
a
they should, like,
battlefield for the
only
apex
40K?
fight in low sec faction warfare.
Yeah, I think you should have these capitals for that, and like, I don't know, give like all capitals like 1 million LP or some shit, but like just like fucking sit for like 20 capitals need to be sat there and bashing. It's really boring content, especially with
It
like
sounds
the
to me
only
like you want to drop iHubs.
Yeah, of course I do, but it's like it's the only
That's content. That's content.
It's the only
It is fun. It is fun playing that game. It is fun. I have done that before, especially when somebody sneaks a 38 billion ISK Zenitra into your fucking fleet without you knowing.
That's funny.
Look, just use a Babaroga to bash the iHub.
Yeah, obviously.
Cost effective.
I mean, that's all trig ships are good for now, right? That's
if we're gonna talk about iHub bashing and what it is and what it isn't. I mean, from somebody who is for the last best part of a year, or has it been a year? However long it's been, I've been out of faction warfare. iHub bashes kind of seemed like a bit of a disappointment every single time, because it is the most telegraphed fight event of faction warfare. Everybody gets to know for days, sometimes weeks, that it is coming, and people can see that it's getting to that stage where it would happen, and yet it's always kind of like a damp firework when it happens, because the optimum way to just get it done is to do so in non-committal ships. I mean, I don't think I've ever even seen a coherent fleet doing it. I have seen people turning up in ships rather than.
I've seen coherent fleets on it, but they tend to get scared away quite quickly.
I've ran coherent fleets to bash iHubs.
I also feel the open grid.
It's interesting because obviously you can have anything turn up, but obviously, as Fan says, it's very well telegraphed across the entire war zone. It doesn't take a genius to look at a map and see, oh, this system is at 99.9%. It's going to be bashed soon. And I think that does play upon some groups and some FC's minds, knowing, groups like Snuffed Out exist and stuff like that. So in terms of depending on what system it is, I think it varies depending on, first of all, the group, but first of all, the importance of the iHub. You won't see people or groups want to drop stuff like dreadnoughts or even battleships or battle cruisers onto an iHub. That technically doesn't really matter. It's usually for more important systems, but those systems are, because of their importance, are rarely reaching that point to be able to have to commit those assets.
And
there's just not enough reward versus risk, knowing
exactly
that the whole of New Eden can see it coming for days and weeks ahead, and that it doesn't even pay you on the spot when you do it.
And it's not just that too. It's like, why I know this system is a perma front line. It is going to get flipped. why would I want to risk a dread to flip it every time?
Yeah, there's also not
I
enough
have a question.
incentive
It's
You
like
know,
a
like
to reward
yo
capturing the system.
to the PvEers actually. I have a question. For the last 10 years, unironically, I've been PvPing in FW for like I don't know 15 years, but like I don't think
In
anything
FW
changed.
space.
Yeah, in the FW space. All right, I'm a pirate for the viewers, but I wonder in the last 10 years, for me as an outsider to faction warfare, it always seemed like the plexing, that is the actual war going down, and then the IHOP bash is just a chore or chances of you getting fucked with and or dropped by a big gang because you actually end up bringing a coherent fleet. You're getting dropped by like, I don't know, pirates, right? Because you bring a coherent fleet, maybe somebody brings a dread or whatever. But in general, it's a chore.
Yeah,
There's
it feels like
nothing
an
to be.
afterthought.
It's like an afterthought. It's a chore. It's absolutely like, as an outsider, right? I think it's fucking horrible to partake in. If you actually like theory craft, make a fleet, bring it together, get it on grid, somebody's probably going to come for you because you look really well put together. It just seems like the IHOP bash overall is something that you don't want to happen, right? Like you want it to happen, so you take that system, but it's not something you're looking like, oh wow, I can't wait to fucking hit that IHOP, right?
And not just that, Baltrum, it's another step. It's that the only fights that happen on iHubs are fights because not of necessity. It's like, oh, they're shooting the iHub, let's go shoot them. There's no way for a defender currently, other than running plexes, to stop an iHub bash. Because the iHub become and so it's like what's the point if I'm the defending group? It's like I'm gonna fight you because I just want to, not out of necessity, not out of like a reason. And like that's the second layer to that. What you're bringing up, it's like it's pointless. Like
Because if you
why
don't,
form?
they'll just time tank it. They're still going to get it whenever everybody else goes to sleep, or some other group will come in and just do it.
That's
To
what I
the
was about
IHOB
to say. Is the iHub, even if you manage to like, okay, let me deplex real fast because they're getting ready to bash the iHub, like you're pushing that off a couple minutes maybe, because the
Yeah.
plexes themselves, unless you get like uber god rolled in a battlefield or something spawns in your fucking in the system you're trying to defend, you're not going to get enough percentage points back to hold that off a day. You're going to hold it off an hour, maybe a 30 minutes.
It's fucking horrible, dude. It's absolutely
yeah.
horrible. Like I've never had to partake in. I mean, I did partake in one. Like I don't know when I just started the game, but like over the last actual years of gameplay, I just I tried to gank them obviously and like fuck with them or whatever. But it's like I imagine it's horrible to partake in, right? There's no the game design. It's really bad
It's-
game design. That's it. Like period.
And exactly, but also like the iHub systems are so old, and that's why like a lot of our suggestions lately have been make it not copying null, but like make it so there's a long-term reason for faction warfare groups to plant their flag in a system. Corvus is a perfect example. He's lived in fucking EHA for like 10 bajillion years. What has he gotten for it? He's defended that space for so long. But it's true, Fant. It's true. Like, what's the point?
I know.
Like,
what
what's
he's got for it
it's
is every
blue.
single office in the EHA station.
Every fucking office in the EHA station, right? So like, but that's the point. It's like there needs to be these long-term goals for system control. Like what? Like do we have the ranking system that's like I don't know what it's used for other than getting standings. Like you can be a corporate. For those that know, there's these ranks you can gain from running a bunch of plexes or faction warfare missions, and you become like a corporate general. But there's no like thing that you get for it. It's just like an arbitrary ranking. Correct me if I'm wrong, Corvus, but I think you only get faction standings once, and like from those rankings, and like that's it. And then there's like these other older mechanics that like tags, which nobody likes tags. I know we talked about it, and CCP during FanFest was like, we're not gonna see it. Okay, I get it. But like there's like these barriers for like growing the groups in Fact Wars still that are like still not addressed. Like they need to be addressed, but like they're hard problems, I assume,
Like
that
what?
take a lot of time.
Sorry, I have not been here listening to the stream earlier. If you talked about this already,
Corvus, you want to go off?
iHubs? No.
So I do have some pre-prepared notes on the iHub stuff. And it is a bit of a pipe dream, I will admit. But I do think there needs to be a push for some sort of representation in game of system ownership.
Yeah.
There is a system ownership in place. It is more or less word of mouth between players. You know, we know that Galmil groups live in Fleria. I live in Ihar. You know, Cetok up until very recently lived in Sujarento. When Young Puke and Sedit lived in the Warzone, you know, it was Old Man Star or Haley's. I think there could be some sort of ownership system in factional warfare that would bring it not I wouldn't say copy from nullsec, but a nullsec-esque version of it, where you would have to do some sort of maintenance to keep those systems. Which brings us to a previous conversation that has been in the faction warfare channel on Discord about iHub upgrades potentially, where groups can upgrade their iHubs to give them benefits in a system that they've controlled for a very long time. Stuff like some of the suggestions I've seen is Trapper Rats. Upgrading your iHub and putting Trapper Rats in faction warfare plexes like the Guru plexes do. Increasing the number of NPCs that are required to run RVs or rendezvous points. You know, or maybe decreasing advantage decay in some systems. These are all things that you know are stuff that faction warfare players could possibly want to see in an iteration of an update at some point. I do believe that there isn't enough reward given to long-term groups in faction warfare. You know, harkening back to the direct enlistment stuff, and tying that into, you know, there is no recognition for groups that have defended certain parts of space for a very long time. And in the same way that there isn't, if you put that in the opposite, in an enemy's hands, there isn't any recognition for factions taking a home system of the opposing faction. You know, if you are a group of players that have struggled and grinded to take a system that's been held by the enemy faction for 4 or 5 plus years, okay, here's 40k LP. Well done. It's
and like,
yeah.
And those are the moments, Corvus. Like, this is like what I like to highlight too. Is like those are your alliance foundational building block moments. We took EHA for the first time in 10 years. Like, that should be a celebration, right? But it feels very muted, right? And like, or taking Fleet or Fleet Nam 1, 2, or 3, or all these other big campaigns. You know, liberating Yugati or whatever the Amar constellation is, or taking over Vard. It feels so muted and downplay when it's like, if you look at Helldivers as an example, like when you liberate something, it's like it's a big deal that you liberate a planet.
I mean, isn't a lot of this just because the player base is like kind of too risk averse for it? Like, if you did it, so like if I don't know, Kalmo lost EHA, then that station and all the stuff that was like presently in it just got locked. Like every Kalmo's stuff got locked in that station until it was retaken. Like, actually, because at the moment it's just like, oh, can't dock in that station, just contract it and all. Like, there's just so much getting out of all like the cost of losing that there's no real benefit to winning.
I got like a wild idea, boys. Okay, and I kind of want to have some feedback on. All right, I was getting a fresh beer, and while getting that beer, it struck me. How do people feel about the idea, like faction warfare, low-sec gamers? How do you feel about the idea of docking access in low-sec, in faction warfare low-sec? Okay, specifically, only possible if you're part of the Deathless or either Minmatar, Amar, Galente, Kaldari faction. Pirates can't dock at all unless you join a faction, and then they're limited to that faction's docking access.
By pirates, do you mean people who are not part of the pirate faction warfare? You mean like you and me?
Yeah, not at all. You're not deathless, because I think like can they conquer systems? I don't understand the current system, right? But basically anybody, like, let's say you join faction warfare, right? That's your docking access rights, how they like go, like, you know, like you're Amar, you can dock in Amar systems and you can't dock in Minmatar systems. That is what it is. And if you're not part of either faction that can conquer systems to be able to dock in, you can't dock either. You just cannot dock at all if you're not part of a faction that is able to, in the current system, basically like acquire docking rights to a system, right? Like you need to acquire docking rights to a system. Whatever faction you're in, it doesn't matter. And if you're not
So
part
if
of,
I'm not in a faction, I just can't dock in lowsec anymore.
yeah, exactly.
That's
I
what
think
I was
that's
gonna
actually
say.
Bye-bye.
yeah, that's pretty fucking
That would
dope,
fucking
dude. Think about
suck.
it.
I
No, that
think,
would be
Yeah, I don't
epic.
think I agree with that.
What? I think
It would reduce the population of low-sec a
I
lot.
think, I think partially thinking, partially what Boltrin was saying, when it comes to neutral pirates, like said it, watch this. I think it would decimate the low-sec population in terms of content generation. Because the next thing, as a faction warfare person, if I'm not shooting the opposite militia, the next person I'm shooting is a neutral guy in a Plex. When it comes to pirate insurgency enlisted groups, I fully agree with you, and I have stated this before, that it does not make any sense from both a logical standpoint and a law standpoint that people actively enlisted in Guristas or in Angel Cartel should be able to freely dock anywhere in New Eden. They should be limited to their scope in terms of docking rights, to FOB systems and the contested and the corrupted systems that they have worked to gain. Right now, we have a meta where pirates groups enlisted in insurgency can dock anywhere, including HiSec, which makes no fucking sense whatsoever. Because how can you, as somebody who's enlisted to fight against the empires, be allowed to enter an empire system and dock?
And people, Galente people can't go to Caldari HiSec.
You are in fact, if you enlist in faction warfare at this point as an empire, you are actively limiting yourself, and you have less access to stations than somebody who is enlisted in a pirate group, a pirate insurgency. And we see this all the time. You see groups like Dawn's Light, for instance, in the Caldari Galante war zone, freely docking in systems that they have no business docking in, but because it's a safe staging area that can't be fully suppressed, they're able to project themselves from that system, which shouldn't be the case. And in effect, what limiting them to docking anywhere in system anywhere in New Eden would force these groups to either consider their options on grinding systems for corruption or using the FOB as it was made to be used, which is a staging area for insurgencies.
And I'd be comfortable with that with a few stipulations. We need asset safety to Zarzak then, right? Because as the FOB moves, then and insurgency moves, then you're not able, you can't dock in those stations anymore, right? When the FOB moves. So like when you're done with one
like
FOB,
a limited volume. Of free asset safety for that.
Basically,
I mean, that would also have the benefit of actually having something drop in the FOB as well when you kill it.
Yep.
Like it was only until very recently we actually got a reward for it, or what was it? It was the kill mail actually had a value to it, because before, I think like maybe a year ago, 7 or 8 months ago, literally the FOB was worth 0.01 ISK.
Now it should be 1.5 bill.
Yeah,
right.
It is now. Yeah.
Yeah, I just agree with you. Like, I think this is why I think what we're saying as a collective is like there really needs to be a hard look of like how to tie insurgencies with empire faction warfare. What's its true role? Like one thing that irks me all the time as a pirate player, like enlisted in Angels, is that when I go to battlefields and I want to fight people, they just warp out. They just leave. There's no reason for them to fight me. Even though, like, oh, I'm going to bring Navy ships in or whatever, they know they can wait 20 minutes, come back 20 minutes later after we fuck off, and then there's no fight. Even though, like, we're supposed to be the chaos on the front lines, we're willing to shoot both Amar and Nimitar, and they can shoot us both at the same time. That's totally fair and acceptable. But, like, there's no, like, I don't know, like, synergy between the three factions right now. I feel like it's very... this works a little bit well, this works okay, this is not working very well, and something needs to tie it all together to really look at all the pieces.
Would there be something for like frontline systems, the longer you hold them as a given faction, that you get like reduced cost of buying blueprints and shit like that? So like, I don't know, after holding it for like a month, the tag cost goes away or something like that.
For everybody, or for the specified
For
weird guys that like...
for the faction that holds it, right? So like if Talmil hold I don't know, Hasmajala for like a month. They don't have to pay tags on shit they buy. But it's only front lines that can actually be flipped and stuff like that.
Do you remember like Star Wars Battlefront, where holding different systems gave you like different resources and perks and things?
Yep.
Could something like that work? That introduces some geography to the map as well. But I would, with reward stuff, I would always be worried about the win trading aspect, which I think we've seen several times in faction warfare iterations previously.
Next question.
Direct enlistment also really screws with this idea of, you know, cheaper blueprints when the system is held for a certain amount of time, you know.
Yeah, and there's also like the standings issues too, which we haven't even talked about. Like how hard is it to make? I mean, Mimitar Fleet has like the hardest time. Not to be a spokesperson for Blazing Bunny here, but like they have a very hard time maintaining standings to be fully enlisted, and like how those mechanics all work with AWOXing. Like I feel like when we look up under one rock, there's like 6 other rocks we have to look under every time. Like whether it's related to AWOXing, whether it's the LP stores, whether there should be like based on your rank, you get access to certain LP store items. And there's a crazy idea that I had, which I haven't really broadcasted it for feedback yet, was like if your ranking system unlocks certain items in LP stores, like you get awesome, cooler, better pricing, better whatever in LP stores based on your loyalty to the faction instead of just hopping between factions. Oh, then these farmers that can swap between factions every time for the same system, like your loyalty to that system matters. The time you're in a faction matters, and that you get these bonuses basically or something. I think that'd be really cool. Because again, like some players have been in Fact War for 10 years, and there's nothing to reward them for their loyalty other than loyalty points.
The standings thing is a problem for larger
Yeah,
and
but then
smaller
again, like
faction
there's
warfare
people
groups, I'll say.
who've been in like PL for like 20 years, okay, and there's nothing to reward them for staying true to that one fucking corp in that one fucking alliance. Like, I don't think you need to be rewarded for being in X group for X amount of time. Like, it doesn't
Playing
exist
the game.
any. Yeah, I think it exists nowhere else in Eve. So it's like,
sort of agree.
why should you get it? I don't know.
But
I
we
mean,
shouldn't
sure
be
for
penalized for it either. And that's
Yeah.
where we're at with
Yeah,
direct
that's-
enlistment. It actually hurts us to be enlisted as an alliance. We can't choose to be unenlisted as an alliance and enlist select corps.
Yeah. And like so that's like one thing that would be a good quality of life is like you have individual enlistment, you have alliance enlistment, there's no corp within the alliance enlistment option. So like allowing corporations to have the choice to fully align, even though their whole alliance is not fully enlisted. So like if you want more flexibility in your alliances, great. Like then you'll move away from DE model only. Then you'll actually have dedicated faction warfare corps within alliances that do not want to fully enlist, and then you create incentives for people to fully enlist their alliances, and only certain perks are allowed in that. I disagree. I humbly disagree, Voltron, but like I don't think loyalty to one group. I think loyalty to a faction in Fact War, but not to like the alliance itself.
What are you disagreeing with? What did I say, dude? I'm sorry, I'm high as a kite, and I've been drinking like a lot of beer.
I have a.
It's okay, my
counterpoint
friend.
for the
Schnapps.
PL thing
Hell
too,
yeah.
right? Is there's
Hell
you're
yeah,
right.
dude! I'm
There's
fucking piecing out over here, dude. What are you disagreeing with?
the counterpoint to what you were saying though is yes, you're right. There's not a benefit to being in PL for 15 years, but there's a benefit to being in a group that has Zob for 15 years, right?
Yeah.
That system exists so you can build out the area that Sov holding alliance lives in. Whether if PL doesn't own Sov, then that's their prerogative, but that's your incentive to be loyal to a nullsec group is because Sov upgrades exist and you can improve your space and you can put ansiplexes and bullshit in it.
Well,
But there's
But I
nothing
mean,
like
like
that
in low sec. Okay, so sorry, dude. I mean, fuck.
That's
but...
what he was saying, pretty much.
Yeah,
it's not loyalty. It's not loyalty to the group. It's loyalty
yeah.
to the area, I guess.
Okay,
it's loyalty to the mechanic. It's leveling yourself up within faction warfare. It's not necessarily being committed
there, like,
to
level
one group.
5 missions for like jackdaws and shit and bombers or something if you're part of faction warfare. I don't know how this shit works, but
I think the loss in translation here is it's not a reward for being part of a group or part of a certain faction. It's the reward for being able to successfully hold and defend an objective that has been set out for a long time. Because that being part of a group, once you've enlisted, yeah, okay, you attend a couple of fleets. Doesn't really take much work on the individual. If you are defending a system where you have individuals who are spending their game time running complexes, fighting the enemy, that does not have a reward at the moment. That needs a reward, other than LP.
They should make it so if you hold a system for like a year, you get an Ansel-Plex in it.
I think
but to nowhere. It's not
Mm.
linked to another one.
Okay, I think a problem we're running into here is like that NoSec is basically hands off, like build what you want, and LowSec is kind of like it's like play the game, but CCP is like like they're controlling what's going on. There's like ship forecasters or whatever, dude, stuff that transports spaceships across space, but it's kind of like it's a bit more curated. Do you think
it's
you want
simpler? It's nullsec light.
Yeah, it's NoSec light. Do you think though you want like NoSec unlighted mechanics here? Because then you would be really rewarded for holding your space and developing it. Yeah, but then you would be really rewarded for like holding your space over longer periods of time and developing it, right? Like building tall, okay? You would really develop it because LowSec is like build wide. There's no tall option, right? You can go wide, cap all of the war zone, get the reward, GG's or whatever, like get the medal. I don't know.
I'm very eager.
There's no building tall in LowSec. Do you want to be able to build tall? Because then anybody in LowSec can build tall, right? It's just like NoSec.
I think
well, hold on. I think something I'm very, very cautious against is, and this does apply just to the rewards for holding a system for a long time as the example in faction warfare. I'm very cautious and nervous about the idea of encouraging people to invest to the point where they would behave in an incredibly fearful manner of losing it, which is the situation that we do have in nullsec.
It's exactly what I was going to say. It's like if we have these home systems or whatever, like these, they get these bonuses, it could only be the system where like one system where the alliance selects it. Like we don't want it to be like Eldari, right? Historically with larger numbers. Sorry, Corvus, going to go on a little bit propaganda spree right now. But they have larger numbers compared to Galente. They're going to own more systems, and then it may snowball effect, right? And then Galente may be crushed because they have less people. And so we don't want that to happen in LowSec all the time. There's a good balancing point that's happening. So like I think these putting the flag in your space type of deal can only happen in one system per alliance or something. And it can't like snowball so people can grow super tall or super wide. But just give it more uniqueness, I think is the right word, or like customization of one space to have a sense of ownership rather than building super wide and tall.
If Corvus really wants to own EHA, right, why doesn't he just anchor a bunch of Citadel ownership to show you?
I think I know why Corvus can't anchor.
Look, I think a little.
I think the reason is in this room with us right now.
Yeah, I think a bit of the underlying office is not like a lot of people want like, oh, this is our system, we own it. When you don't, right? Like Snuff own Blackrise, right? We own like that entire part of LowSec, right? We don't get anything from holding it, right? We get a bunch of people really angry about it on Reddit, and that's fun enough, right? But like, we don't need or want anything from that, and I don't see why it should be any different than faction warfare groups.
I mean, you probably forget, Nada, that I was in an alliance that did own a Forza in EHA for
where's the
the
noise?
longest time, and
so you haven't defended EHA all these years. You've lost your fort.
No, we didn't. We decommissioned it. You guys never actually killed it, but that's
yeah. Fuck Snuff,
that's
dude.
In the past.
Fuck him.
But
fuck
that's in the past.
dude.
But what I would say is that what you're saying is then to own a system, then you have to put down structures, which is not a faction warfare or a LowSec thing. That's more of a nullsec mechanic, really. More to the point as well is then you invest, or you then cut out a lot of groups that may not be able to put a keep star in system, even though they have the numbers to defend that system and have been defending that system for a while.
I have
like what do you want?
I have a question for our Snuff bro here. Snuff owns all of Blackrise, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
How many of the good moons in Blackrise do you own?
I think we own all the ones we want.
I mean, it doesn't that technically count as a benefit for controlling the entire region?
Yeah, but it's like we enforce our CCP aren't handling it still. We defend us.
I mean, I suppose. Hold on. I suppose that
Wait one
the
sec.
discussion
Is
here is
CCP
asking for
defending
the
like fucking?
tools,
Is
not
CCP
for asking
defending like
CCP to give it.
Amamake from Amar, dude, or some shit, dude? Like, I mean, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, little bro.
Everybody
I suppose
knows that Mimitar pays CCP to spawn the battlefields where they want them.
One time that happened. One time.
There it is.
So I think that we're
Ada?
kind of about to wind up here. You can all see Baltram's playing with his what looks like some kind of child tablet.
No,
I wanted
it's
to
a
hit one more
notebook.
point, Fant, before we fuck off.
Yeah.
How does everybody feel about counterinsurgency guns? It seems
They
to me
suck.
like
They suck. They're
like
broken.
corruption gets you great rewards of increasing content, and suppression just kills the content.
Can we agree gate guns on those heck are fucking stupid and pointless?
No, absolutely
they're
not.
They're one of the most
I think they're
content
important.
killing things in this fucking game.
Absolutely
Because
not.
any gate
Have
gun
you
that's
seen?
gonna
Have
cost
you seen a counterinsurgency gun?
Yeah, they're
It's
fucking
bigger.
dumb.
Yeah. Okay,
It's
but
bigger.
like,
It jams. It shoots further. It remembers you.
Counterinsurgency guns should disappear.
Does it
after
name
the-
the?
They should. That's
If the
counterinsurgency thing.
counterinsurgency guns should disappear, so should those fucking fleets, those Angel and Garistas fleets that sit on those gates and
Listen.
There's
and
too
do
much
4
NPC
billion
shit that
damage.
just
Pete,
was the point.
Pete, can you take
okay.
this? Please take this to
Yeah.
CCP. And this isn't just with like Angel and Guristas fleets, and it's not just with the local good guy NPC fleets, but this is also to the Triglavian occupied systems, and this includes in high sec as well. There's a huge amount
Bro, don't
of
even get
these
me started
NPCs
about
around.
those fucking Edencom systems, bro. I hate that shit so much. The fact you're like one time decided I'm gonna go to Bachvin and try a site, and then you'll get blown up for the rest of your fucking career is so dumb.
It's dumb.
I think that the epitome of this is the ones in high sec. How on earth is an inexperienced player meant to understand what has happened to them in one of these systems in high sec before we even start looking at these kind of places in low sec? I don't think that having hostile NPCs in fleets on gates anywhere in this game is particularly useful to content generation.
Well, and they're quite selective too. Because if an angel guy with one saber throws a bubble up on a gate that has angel rats that aren't shooting him, and we're just coming through, you can't even burn back to the gate before you're dead. It's a
well, I mean, that does sound a bit like a skill issue. I mean, I can do that, but
I just don't.
But I
see
get your
why-
point.
I don't think
So,
NPCs
like-
should be playing the game for people.
Okay, boys.
Not just.
Can I shoot another question actually at everybody? Like, the thing is, I think it's pretty cool that I just returned to the game. I have so much questions to ask and maybe cool answers to get, right? Maybe. I don't know. I've mostly been solo PvPing.
Yeah.
I've mostly been solo PvPing. Is anybody here in chat or channel rather been like solo PvPing and like thinking that the meta for solo PvP is fucking good? Because what I'm encountering so far, I'll try to keep this short, is like frigate PvP is like Scout Navy, okay? T2 it's not really happening because Scout Navy. Small Navy, where you would take your assault frigate or your pirate frigate, it's not happening because it's all small Navy. So the fucking end game is like put a fucking Navy destroyer in there, and it's really hard to button in. It's really hard to button in unless you're in a Navy destroyer as well that's specifically designed to 1v1 another Navy destroyer. Like, the meta is pretty fucking stale for solo PvP. There's no, like, cruiser is pretty on the down low. It's all Navy destroyers setting up in a Navy plex.
So
I think since
Go ahead, Mal.
I think since the Navy destroyers came out, it has caused frigate PvP, especially solo, to take a hit. And to Baltram's point, I think he's saying there's no scout advanced plexes.
No, there's.
Well,
Wait,
I mean,
what?
there'd be small advanced.
Yeah, there would be small advanced for sure. Yeah.
He's saying that there's nowhere that you can. There's not a Tech 2 frigate only Plex, so that's why it's got pushed out. But I'll take it one further for you. Since not only just Navy destroyers, I mean, look at fucking dreads, dude. Like, when was the last time you saw a T1 dread ball that wasn't bait for something? Like,
I haven't played in 2 years, dude. I haven't played in 2
That was
years.
a
I don't know
question
what
for
the
the
fuck's
room,
going
you
on.
goober.
I mean, T1 Dreads got a significant bump for the insurance changes.
Yeah, not just that. Like going off the Baltimore, we have a player in our alliance, Goom. He flies a Kruger. That's all he flies, basically.
Goom's the best.
And he basically looks for 1v1s in a Kruger. He wants to become the top all-time Kruger pilot in the game, and he's at like 400 kills. He's like 800 more to go. He's a massive weeb. And so what happens is that he has the same difficulty you do. He has to take his T2 frigate or pirate frigate, fights these destroyers, and he just can't fight it. And so he also said, like, it'd be really interesting to have a Plex or a setting where he could take a T2 frigate and it's T2 frigate versus T2 frigate. I think that also may help a lot of people who miss proving grounds, right? Like they want to have 1v1 frigate PvP. They want a better way to find it. Make Scout Advance happen, where you can bring in 1v1 assault frigates or something. I mean, it'd be an extra Plex, guys, that we would have to add and be more Plexes in the system. But if people are really wanting that content, like, I don't see, like, I mean, CCP Kestrel said it in chat too. I mean, I don't think it'd be very difficult to ask to add them for a Scout Advanced, so you can have more 1v1s.
What about the Angel sites? Are there not Angel scouts?
Can I maybe rephrase?
Does that serve the purpose?
Can I maybe rephrase my question?
That's where he goes mostly.
Maybe it's like, do you think the current system, like from a, I don't know how much you guys solo PvP, right? But from a solo, maybe duo PvP perspective, which is what all the line members of your corporations and alliances are doing if they actively do it, do you think the current system is better than the old one? Where a small was a small, a medium was a medium, and a large was a large, and an open was an open, right?
Yes, I do, because I think it has promoted both a new unique meta and a more affordable meta.
Yeah, but the meta on average is like, to me at least, so far, right? Who's like,
remember,
really...
if you want to use something more expensive, then even in the Navy meta, there is still room for you to spend money for an advantage in implants and things like that.
Of course,
There's
there always
still
is.
also room for you to catch things on the outsides of plexes and at non-dead space things. Like when I do solo PvP, I'm normally in a Vedmac, which you can't get into Navy plexes. I just like to go around and see what I can snag on the outside of plexes, and at places like on gates and stuff, which is why I hate the counterinsurgency gate guns. You don't necessarily have to be in a plex to be doing solo PvP.
And I agree with Phantomite and Mr. Poosmoose. Like, I think the older model of the 4 plexes, everyone ended up min-maxing, right? Like, it was assault frigates for small, right? Phantomite Corvus, right? Assault frigates for smalls, mediums were hacks. You know, you would get your battle cruisers of whatever, basically still hacks. Larges were battleships. And like that's it. It was like 4 ship types.
That's actually a pretty good point.
Apart from that one period when T3 destroyers were allowed in space.
In space, yeah, which was awful.
Yeah, wild.
Can we please put T3s back into smalls, dude?
No,
that was so bad.
I
But like
think
now
someone-
there's
I really- I really
God,
wanna
dude!
Yeah,
I
there was
really
so
wanna
much
see
more
2016
diversity.
Swiftles with Nirvanas.
Oh my god, dude.
Oh my god, remote rep confessors, dude, bring it back. What are they supposed to do? Like fight fucking hacks? What?
That's just reminded me of something else that I've heard suggested. How do people feel about warp disruption bubbles on the capture zones of plexes, so that you have to be at some kind of risk when you're capturing, like the ESS?
I mean, given that you, as a potential aggressor, to catch somebody,
Well,
have to
I'm
warp in on
biased.
that
Okay,
as well.
I'm absolutely
Yeah.
biased because I want them to stay there because I'm coming to kill them. But I'm wondering how the
Angel
other
sites.
side feels about this.
I think there should be something.
I think as a suggestion, I think it's
done like
flawed. Because if there was a bubble, I do a not small amount of solo PvP, and I would think, you know, if there were bubbles in sites, the first thing I'm going to do if I see something on D-scan is burn outside that bubble so I get an advantage on the person coming in, which I already have because I have the high ground. And I think it would dick over a lot of maybe slower ships as well if they can't get out of bubble range. From the point of view, if you wanted to make plexes so that they couldn't be people couldn't escape, I think that's more or less down to the onus is on the person to formulate a plan before they go in. Whether that be sending a scout in first to get tackle, which is what many of us do when we're roaming, to get that initial tackle to then bring in DPS. I do not think that adjusting the plexes. I mean, this goes back to the iHub thing, right? But why don't we have trapper rats in faction warfare plexes? They're evidently already integrated into the game in terms of insurgency sites. Would that not be an easier way of doing it rather than, jury rigging ESS stuff, which to my mind I never really partake in. Rather than jury rigging a mechanic from ESSs into a plex, rather just add something that's already in low sec, which is the trapper rats.
Yeah, I like the idea of tracker rats. If you mean the snaring angel rats in our space.
Yeah, the NPCs are in the pirates tertiary complexes at point.
Yeah, and that has counterplay in that you can boost yourself out of them. You can primary the rats that are pointing, things like that.
But you could potentially, if you were going to go for an ESS model, you could potentially boost yourself out of the bubbles.
And can we make friendly rats blue?
Yeah.
Yeah, that shit is annoying.
Listen,
We've
guys,
mastered the technology. We can do it.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around and we're just going to get a final thought off of everybody as to, what I want to know is what's working really well at the moment and what could use some work. I know that, there'll be some crossover for some of you. But if I come to you first, Puke, you're the one with the greatest influence on what can be looked at in the future here. What's good? What could we do with some work if you were to pick one thing? Have I
He's
ambushed
getting his
you?
sandwich right now. You should go to him last.
I'm eating a sandwich. Hello?
Oh, sorry.
Oh my god.
I'm eating a sandwich, dude. My wife has made me a beautiful sandwich, and I need to eat it with her. So I'll be the last one, okay?
Okie dokie. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Listen, Nada, if I come to you first as a traditional EVE Online pirate living in a largely faction warfare space, what's good? What needs some work?
I think CCP needs to increase the cost of T1 battleships. I think them lowering the cost of them, given they buffed them into the new cost, was a really dumb decision. And it just has these really fucking efficient stat sticks like the Rogue and Raven that are kind of dumb in the moment, and that needs dealt with.
Perhaps for a different show, we could discuss why that might be a ship design issue with their bonuses rather than just a cost.
I don't know. I think faction warfare people in general need more incentive to use caps because I think the historic lack of any incentive for using caps is why so many of the groups are pretty much dog water in terms of being able to fight anyone else. I think making iHelps need caps is probably will be good for faction warfare people helping see as themselves from flying nothing but nano Osprey Navy or nano Osprey Navy issues.
I'd just like to ask if you know what the biggest disincentive for low secers flying caps is.
You just want to frag caps though, bro. Dude,
that's it. You're gonna steal my not working thing.
No, you just want to frag caps. That's it.
Yeah, the problem is
you're just like I'm fucking disputed. I want to frag caps. Make faction warfare people fly caps. Dude.
So when you make them fly caps, then they know they have to defend against caps, and
dude. Holy shit. I think goons have to drop threats into Amamake on the Keepstar every single day or they lose their state.
I tell you what, Corvus, what's good? What needs some work?
I think the state of faction warfare at the moment is 1,000 times better than it was previously. At this point, I think we are in terms of mechanics, I wouldn't say in terms of content generation. I would say in terms of mechanics, we are at a at the top when it comes to as good as it's been in a decade. What I would like to see is more iteration on stuff like insurgencies. I would like to see maybe a bigger representation of factional warfare on the CSM as well, to raise issues from not only faction warfare but the low sec community at large. Now, obviously, Young Puke has done a very good job on the CSM this term, but the last couple of CSMs we've had maybe one or in most cases zero representation on the CSM. I would like to see a bit more of a faction warfare or a low sec focus, as that is where a lot of people who fly for the convenience of being close to trade hubs and stuff like that, people who work full-time jobs, people who can't necessarily put as much time into the game as others. Yeah, apart from that, I think there is still room for improvement, as there always will be. You know, nobody's going to be satisfied, or they're never going to perfect the system. But I think we're in a good place mechanically speaking, in low sec and faction warfare.
Thank you. Blazing, what's working? What needs a little bit of attention?
I'm gonna echo what he said about the Warzone. Whenever I was in Jump years and years ago, there was this area around where I live now with Fleet was not this poppin' before, and I think I remember telling some court mates that whenever we joined Mimitar Fleet and the first time we went to Almake, there was like 95 people in that system, and I was like, what's going on in here? And it's like, oh no, they just live here now. So the ecosystem itself has gotten healthier in terms of the number of people that are present. I think now it just needs to be iterated upon. To start with, get rid of all those fucking gate camping rats. That shit sucks and it needs to go away. Maybe diversify plexes a little bit more, like we've touched on several times. Give Baltrum his scout advance so he can frigate PvP. You could go. I'm sure there's a lot of smart people smarter than me who have developers' ears that have more of an idea on how to diversify the war zone. But I think those are good steps in a good direction.
Thank you. Baltrum, you've been back for a couple of weeks. What's good? Your microphone's muted at the moment. And we need you to hold that closer to the camera.
Hello, operators. Okay.
Yeah.
What's good for sure? There's a lot of content around. Okay. I feel like, at least I'm talking from the Amamake perspective. This is my very personal, objective view. There's like, I undock in Amamake, I get to PvP, undock to August to see Dalvard, all the direct warps. There's PvP. Outside of that, holy shit, dude, I can roam for 1 hour. Nothing's happening. That's pretty fucking bad if you think about it, because I used to get PvP in those systems. What's going on? Why is that happening? No bueno. Okay? Apart from that, more small advanced. Okay?
Small advanced.
Because there's no room, like assault frigate PvP / whatever the fuck pirate frigate PvP is not happening. It's like, why do these ships exist? I'm not sure. You can't really use them that much in nullsec. Apart from the Garmer, the rest, I don't know. Like, there's this crewer guy from somebody's corp / alliance who is popping off apparently. But I mean, he's just having a dream. But big but, capital
Goomba.
B. Okay. Yeah, you go, Goomba.
And Mo, what's working really well for you right now, and what's not?
Yeah, so I think it's great. Faction warfare is the place to be, and it is a PvP hub. It's a training ground. It's a melting pot of veterans and new players coming together in the same fleets. It is a huge economy, and I'm happy to see it continue to improve.
Excellent, thank you.
If there's one thing we can work on, I think it's a good direction to go in to look into AWACSing. That also seems to be a popular opinion right now. And maybe the meaningfulness of holding systems.
Okay, cool. Peace, what thoughts have you had from today's episode?
I think the most we can really ask here is just for CCP to please have another look at LowSec. There's some great implementations that they had in Uprising, but there's still some old ancient systems that need review. Ones we've hit on today are the LP system and definitely the standing system as well. Reviewing stuff that might be blocking content, like the counterinsurgency gate guns, please. Something we didn't hit on today, which I'd like to discuss at some point, is how the larger low-sec groups feel about graduating to nullsec. So I know that Mimitar Fleet, Sedition are extremely large now. I think Sedition's looked at deploying to Curse at some point.
I think you mean extremely medium.
That's a good alliance name, actually.
Above average, in fact.
Above average. But yeah, that's something I'd like to touch on in a different show, I guess. But yeah, please just look at Fact War again.
Well, thank you everybody for being here for this today. I have some of the controls myself, so I'm going to attempt to raid another channel, a channel that has been spinning a paladin for at least half an hour. So obviously it's stellar content on channels other than the New Eden Post here for Untethered. So I'm going to send you there, and those of us who are on camera are going to wave at the camera.
Bye, everybody.